Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has finally happened. Donald Trump did mention and talk about acquiring Greenland. And we know he's joked about Canada, them becoming the 51st state, annexing them, talked about Mexico, possibly a soft invasion. Maybe I'll do another video on that, as well as other things like the Panama Canal, possibly getting that back as well. But this is realistic. This can happen. And I'll analyze the idea of Denmark saying no. Now, technically, Greenland has said, no, we're not going to do this. Greenland really doesn't have a say over it. It really comes down to Denmark. They own Greenland right now. And that's why I think this realistically could happen, because Greenland is very sparsely populated, which is one of the big problems when you take over a plot of land, is the population not liking you as you rule over them. So Greenland owns like 50,000 people. But I'm going to talk about why I think this is a great thing. I've been saying this should happen. And Trump originally, he wanted to do it back in 2018, 2019. Denmark said no. But the offer, and people have asked, what is the offer? For Greenland, the acquisition, it would be around $50 billion. You might be able to get it down to $30 billion. I know people say, well, we're the United States, we should just take it. But you would want to do this peacefully for a number of reasons. And I want to tell a lot of Trump people, you need to be careful with this mindset of just buying all of this land. Now, Greenland's a different beast because this can happen, and this is like a diplomatic thing. But it's going to enable our foreign enemies to be emboldened and potential. Like, if we acquire Greenland, it's very, very likely that China will invade Taiwan and cite that and say, look at America, look at what they're doing. Not that it matters too much, because I think they're going to do it anyways, and they probably just want an excuse. It's like Russia finding an excuse to invade Ukraine, and they have their own reasons. I'm not going to analyze that right now. But Greenland might be a little bit different than the Panama Canal. I mean, Canada is totally different. I mean, that's like, this is a territory. It's not like Greenland, they're going to vote in our elections or anything. This is basically what Puerto Rico is. The U.S. would be using Greenland and the glacier. I mean, Greenland's mostly uninhabitable. Go to any point on Greenland, it's like -30, -40 degrees. The coastline is where it warms up at least a little bit, although it's still very cold. We would want Greenland for the rare earths that it has. And the rare earths that we could mine out of Greenland are very important for smartphones. It's something that China has a lot of, has a big access to. This could be a huge purchase. And listen, Trump can easily swing this. If he's able to think about this, Trump's able to end the Russia-Ukraine war. We save all that money that liberals were dumping into Ukraine. And that's another story for another day. That's part of the NATO thing. But we saved, and Trump can say, listen, I saved like $30-40 billion. We're just going to buy Greenland now. And it's not even you pay $30 or $40 billion up front. It's a payment plan. It's about $20 billion up front. And then a payment plan like $15 billion spread out over the span of 30 or 40 years. With inflation, it'll be a better deal for the United States to do like a payment plan. But they are going to want a chunk up front, I'm guessing, when it comes to Denmark. And they're going to want a good trade deal. They're going to want, probably something outside of NATO in terms of protection, which is understandable because Trump's talked about the problems with NATO. We'll see what he ends up doing there. But Trump comes out and says the United States feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. And he talks about for the purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world. That basically means, you know what? I want the resources on Greenland, and we have to kind of dress this up for the public and make it nice. That's what I mean. No. I mean, listen, the Arctic Circle is going to be very important with the climate change is changing. Absolutely. It'd be great to have that land. That's why, you're looking at those 3 upper territories that are very sparsely populated in Canada. I don't want to, take Canada. Take those 3 upper territories, the 3 upper provinces. Now you've got Alaska and Greenland. You've got all the Arctic just controlled by the U.S. with the warming temperatures. That's going to be valuable land. Those are some valuable shipping lanes if you take Greenland. The U.S. presence in Greenland and just the resources we could mine. I mean, there's estimates. The amount of resources on Greenland, about $5-6 trillion. And you're talking about getting a return on investment within 30 years of like trillions. And the dumb liberals will say, oh, this is a waste of money. It's terrible. You just said that we were wasting money for giving Ukraine money during their war. Well, no, this is for the U.S. and it's just a territory. And we're not going to change the way of life for the people on Greenland. That's not the point. Although depending on what happens with the climate, you might want to build some cities there. But we are going to have to build infrastructure to be able to mine and be able to extract the natural resources that are on Greenland. So Greenland, I think, is a little bit different because the situation is kind of strange. It's not control. It's controlled by Denmark. So it's already like you can kind of see a potential sale happening. Now, how does this work? Denmark has said in the past they're not going to sell it. Denmark is not utilizing Greenland at all. They can't build the infrastructure. They don't have the money. So it would definitely behoove Denmark, a much smaller country with significantly less means than the United States, to take a massive sum of cash and also full protections from the number one most powerful military in the world. And if I was Denmark, I would say I need a separate deal outside of NATO because we don't know what the US is going to do in NATO. I need extra protection from the United States. And if you're Denmark, I mean, you're doing nothing with Greenland right now. It seems like an obvious yes, and the United States can do this because we have bully power over a lot of these countries. But again, that is going to affect the other big players. Russia, they're already doing what they're doing. But China specifically, they're going to get more ambitious in the Pacific, I'm sure, if Trump goes forward with some of these acquisitions. And this would be an acquisition, I would imagine. You could also shake NATO down and force NATO's hand, because I wonder what NATO would think of this, the European countries I'm saying. I mean, people say, well, NATO is the United States. When I talk about NATO, I don't even, I'm mainly addressing the European countries. I know the United States leads in NATO and everything like that. But with Trump, I treat the United States as a separate vessel outside of NATO, but we are still in NATO. But like when I talk about NATO, what do the European countries think of the United States acquiring Greenland, having a presence there? Could Trump potentially strong arm them and say, listen, we're going to leave NATO, or you need to tell Denmark to give us this country? Could Trump potentially do that? Maybe they get Denmark even cheaper. Maybe they get Denmark for free. They're like, we're leaving. You know what, guys? And this is not what Trump should do. But imagine he's like, here's the ultimatum. We want Greenland for nothing, and we're going to give Denmark extra protection, or we're going to leave NATO and start a super alliance with China and Russia. So what do you want to do? You're really obsessed with Greenland that much? But like, that's decent. You're not gonna, it's not good to do that. You want to be peaceful about it. You want to be real. And so I think the United States, I don't know, who knows what Trump will do though. Trump's got crazy negotiating power because of our military and our presence and the amount of money we contribute in terms of NATO and national security. And Trump's starting to utilize it. He didn't do much of it in his first term. He was overwhelmed. He admitted he was overwhelmed going in there. He's got a bunch of rhinos surrounding him. He's making cookie cutter Republican moves, and he's just owning everything right now. And he's talking beforehand. We've got like 4 or 5 things that Trump potentially wants to acquire. We're not even in January. Trump had, we've got a month, a little bit less than a month before Trump's inaugurated. He's already talking about acquiring these things. And he's talking about a soft invasion of Mexico. People need to understand a soft invasion of Mexico. It may result in the annexation of land in Mexico, but that's not what a soft invasion is. China does several soft invasions. It's really just a soft invasion is more so whether it be through investments, whether it be through targeted military strikes, which I think is what they would do on the cartels. It's more about influence rather than a military takeover. That's really what a soft invasion is. And look at what China's doing to the Panama Canal. Panama is in bed with China. Go look it up in 2017. They signed a diplomatic relationship, and Panama's like, oh yeah, you guys own Taiwan. There's big problems there. And there's actually in that treaty that the United States signed when they handed over Panama in 99, they said, we have a right to defend the canal because we built the canal. We have a right to defend it if we think it's under threat. And Trump can say, well, you guys are in bed with China. They're building ports right next to it. You want to talk about your economy relying on the tolls, and 70% of the ships that pass through there every year are U.S. ships, 22% are Chinese. We're going to come in there, and this is a big issue. We need to solve this right now, because right now the situation with the Panama Canal is not trending in a positive direction. But liberals would just let it happen. They're like these big dubbies. They're like, oh, it's so peaceful, it's so fine. You look now in like 2046, and China has like full control over it, and Panama's like a Chinese puppet state. Trump's trying to prevent that. That's what people have to understand. So guys, that's just the current situation when it comes to Greenland. And listen, it's going to come down to a few different things. But even if Denmark doesn't want to sell it, Trump can bully his way to buying Greenland absolutely, or potentially taking it, but then that would cause disruption throughout the world. But Greenland does not have the population to where there's going to be, it's not a problem in terms of maintaining. Like if you took Canada and a bunch of people didn't want that to happen, it'd be an issue. And also Canada with the people voting and stuff, it's not realistic. The three upper provinces maybe to connect Alaska, and then you've got Greenland, but it's just like Quebec, the other provinces, British Columbia, it's not realistic in my opinion right now because the population is too big. But either Alberta, although Alberta is Republican, but I think Greenland could potentially happen. It's controlled by Denmark, so it's already a weird relationship between Greenland and Denmark because Greenland really doesn't control itself, and there's a very small population, and Denmark isn't doing much with it right now, and there's a lot of resources on Greenland that need, or not need, but can be harvested, but they have to be harvested by people that can build the proper infrastructure, which the United States can. And it'll be a massive investment into Greenland when it comes to extracting those rare earths and other things. But there's trillions of dollars in natural resources on Greenland. And so if the United States can bully their way into getting it, it 100% makes sense. Greenland is the ultimate get for Trump. It's the get that will not cause too much destabilization throughout the world, but it will also help the United States. And the United States is going to make trillions of dollars off of Greenland, I would estimate. So when it comes to this, I think Trump's got to do it. And I think it's most likely. I also think the Panama Canal can happen because the United States did control the Panama Canal. We did build it. We gave it up in 1977. A lot of people, they're like, oh, they signed a treaty. Well, yeah, they signed a treaty where the United States kind of had their tolls cut in half from 1977 to 1999, and then Panama took it was a joint ownership between the U.S. and Panama from 1977 to 1999, and then Panama took control in 2000. So the Trump wants it back, and he's sick of China coming in there. And there is a clause in the agreement that says if it's under threat, Trump can take it. Well, the United States can defend it, and so. Yes, this is what China does. This is a soft invasion of the Panama Canal. They're influencing there. And then liberals are like, oh, they're fine. It's fine. And then it's like 2050 and Panama wants to become a part of the Republic of China. And so you foresee that and you nip it in the butt. And that's what Trump's doing. So Greenland is up there. The China or the Canada stuff, I don't think is going to happen. The Mexico soft invasion would target the cartels. Trump, and I'm sure he knows this, but they need to make sure they understand, you don't want to create a power vacuum within Mexico. And I don't think it would be the same thing as what the United States has done in the Middle East, because that's a total mess, because this is a bordering country. It's very easy to get troops down to Mexico if something happens. But you need to be careful with Mexico and preferably work with the Mexican government to do that. Although the Mexican government, I mean, they've got this populist liberal. And so that, I don't know if they'll be able to work. Maybe they will. I mean, I'm sure with how the corruption in Mexico and the amount of political people that get killed there is just out of control. They're probably going to want something to change. So maybe you work with the Mexican government to do that. And then I wanted the border pushed down and then a buffer zone in between the U.S. wall and then Mexico. But I'm not sure that can happen either. But either way, guys, it is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.